One of the great lessons that some of the youth of today are understanding is that you focus more on the effort than you do on just the results. It's not just about what it is you're achieving, but it's about who you're becoming and what you're experiencing on the way towards achieving that goal.
You're listening to Parenting with Impact, a podcast for parents like you, raising complex kids to become capable, independent adults, even in this complicated world. Each episode brings expert insights and real-life strategies to help you parent with confidence, calm, and clarity. Here are your hosts, Elaine and Diane.
Welcome back, everybody, to another conversation in the Parenting with Impact podcast. I am thrilled to welcome our guest today, Ed Gerety. I always love it when we get to talk about that blend between leadership and parenting. And my husband is a leadership and executive coach. I'm a parenting coach, and he often says, we do the same thing, just the size difference may be a little differential. He's working with executives talking about their teams. I'm working with parents talking about their kids. They're a little shorter, but otherwise the issues are very much the same. So Ed, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm really excited to be here and excited to spend some time with you and your listeners.
Awesome. Well, tell us, what is it? You're a leadership coach, but you also have a podcast about parenting. So how did you get into be doing this work with parenting teenagers?
Sure. So I've been doing work now with teenagers for 3 decades now. It's been 30 years. I started my own business when I was in college, working with middle school and high school students, talking about goal setting and respect and responsibility and making positive choices. And then I got married, and then my wife and I, we have two kids, and then the kids went from being elementary to preteen and now teenagers. And as we started to navigate the teen years, we started to realize, wow, you really are not given a manual on how to be a parent, and especially a parent in those teenage years. And so from that, I was like, you know what? It would be really cool to do a podcast and start to really delve deep into how do we navigate the teen years. And that's kind of how it evolved.
I love it. Well, and I have to be honest, I'm of the opinion that teens get a bad rep. And I actually think parenting teenagers is one of the most fun things you can do as a parent. So I do have a little bit of a kind of inverted bias, if you will.
I feel the same way, Elaine, especially because, I spent a lot of time in middle schools and high schools and at colleges. And one of the things that I found is that, I think teenagers and even the youth of today, they get a bad rap. There is so much hope. There's so much resilience, and there's so much innovation among the youth of today that it's truly inspiring.
So there's so much hope, resilience, and innovation among the youth today. And yet there's all of this stuff in the space about how they're resistant and they're not resilient. And there's, I'm trying to remember the book that's by my bedside table that I can't remember the name of. That's not what the common lore is right now.
It's not. I think that one of the ways that we can help our teen is because I think teenagers, they are hit with so much information between the social media, their group of friends, all the different influences that when I was growing up, that I didn't experience or had to even navigate. I didn't have to worry about the Instagram. I didn't have to worry about the Snapchat and my attention being pulled in so many directions. And so I think one of the most important things that we can do as parents to help them navigate those teen years, to help them build their confidence, to help them, find their way in life is we have to really create that open communication with our teenager to really create a safe space for them where we can openly communicate and let them know that they have a safe space to talk with us about what it is they're going through and what it is that they're experiencing. So I think open communication is just one of the most important first steps in really helping our teenager deal with the journey of growing up.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And before we get to solution, I want to go back to let's frame what we're really dealing with here. And in our community, we're dealing with parents of complex teens. So they're not just teens dealing with social media and friend groups and being bombarded with content and opinions and everybody producing themselves. But they're also doing it in a world where the expectations may be out of alignment with their developmental capacity.
Sure.
Or in a world where the parents are afraid and fearful for their future in a way that impacts them differently. A lot of our kids have developmental delays. So we're dealing with all of the issues of today's teens kind of on steroids,
Yeah.
if you will, compounded. Um, and so I want to go back to what you said, which is that you see them as resilient and hopeful and innovative. Talk a little bit about how you see that showing up for today's teens.
Oof. I see it in terms of when you see some of the teenagers that I've worked with, and they go and they set a goal for themselves, and whether it's the goal to make the varsity team or it's the goal to get the lead role in the play, that that they actually are starting to realize that when they talk about resilience and perseverance, it's not just about the goal. It's about who you become and what you experience in the way towards that goal. So I think that one of the great lessons that some of the youth of today are understanding is that you focus more on the effort than you do on just the results. That it's not just about what it is you're achieving, but it's about who you're becoming and what you're experiencing on the way towards achieving that goal. And we can teach that to our kids through our example.
So let me give you a context, and then I want you to dive in. Like,
Sure.
let me just say, double click on that a little bit.
I like that. I
Um,
like that a lot.
But so in our world, we do a lot with the coach approach around exactly what you just said. What we're trying to help parents see is how important it is to focus on the process and not just the outcomes, and to bring our kids through the process of problem solving again and again and again. Because instead of just handing a solution, if we take you through process of problem solving, then as you say, it makes you stronger and better in the process. And then you begin to figure out, and for kids with executive function challenges, process becomes super, super important for them to achieve their outcomes. So what kind of examples do you have about that? Because
I,
it's
I
very,
Sure, because I think it's easy to say you have to have open communication with your team,
yeah.
but it is really more like, well, then how do you do that? And I think one of the ways that you do that is you have to be able to when you're having that conversation with your teen. Look, it is complex because friendships are so complex in those teenage years of the complexities of relationships and the changes that they're going through. So when you're having that open communication with your teenager, to make sure that the way you're communicating them is through curiosity, not judgment. Am I really being curious? Am I being curious in the questions that I'm asking my teen? Or am I asking a question where they're going to feel like they're being judged or made wrong? So I have to make sure that I'm having that open communication, that I'm truly saying, okay, wait a minute, you know, without judgment, just being curious, like, how are you doing? How are you doing? How was your day today? Making sure that the questions that we're also asking are open-ended questions, not just how was your day? And they go, fine, or okay. It has to be more open, more like, well, did anything funny happen in school today? Well, there was one funny thing that happened. And then you could say more about that. Say more about that. Or that's interesting. And then, but you have to keep asking those open-ended questions. And then, Elaine, and I know you talked about this in your work, and that is that in order to have those open-ended questions and go in there being curious without judgment, and then to be able to have the open-ended questions, you have to be present. You have to be
Mhm.
present with then that's in any relationship. I think it's just more important than ever with our teenager because they know if you're not present, they know it in a heartbeat. And as soon as they know you're not present and you're just asking a question out of habit, or how was your day, and you're looking at your phone or you're paying attention to something else, then they shut off and you lose that opportunity. So you really have to be present in order to really have that open communication.
No question. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm laughing a little bit as I'm listening to you because I have a note on my computer. So sometimes I come up with something based on a coaching of somebody or a coaching a group where it's like, this is a topic I want to write about. And the note on my computer says, stop moralizing and teaching.
I love that.
It's counterintuitive, folks, that the way to get your kids to actually find the moral of the story or to learn what they have to learn is for us to stop teaching so that we can invite them to learn what it is they have to learn instead of what it is we have to learn. Is that fair?
I think that's completely fair. And with that, you also to be vulnerable enough and to be open enough that when you aren't present or you weren't listening, to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I missed that. I'll give you an example. Our daughter's a senior in high school, and the other week we were in the car, and she started telling me the story about her friends and the college application search. And I had asked her about it, and then I got distracted. I missed part of the 10 minutes thing. She said, "Do you know what I mean, Dad?" And then I was like, "Oh, wait, I so
Be
I had to
honest
go
with you,
I
kid.
had to be honest and say, Shannon, look, I'm sorry, but I lost that last like 2 minutes of it. I got distracted over here because thinking about something over here. I'm like, I'm sorry, but can you just say that again? I am listening. Let me listen here. So I guess that vulnerability, like we're not perfect. We make mistakes. So it's so easy to say, lead by example, be a positive role model. Well, I think also being a positive role model and being an example for your teen is to let them know that, you don't have it all figured out. And we're all trying to communicate effectively. We're all trying to be curious. We're all trying to be resilient and persevere. But there's struggles and there's setbacks. So I think that's important.
Well, and here's what I want to offer to the parents who are listening, who are also complex themselves. To those of us who have our own ADHD, anxiety, autism, whatever it is we're dealing with, we are going to lose the thread sometimes. That's part of the nature of the way our brains are wired. And what you're saying, modeling transparency for them, teaching them how to navigate that in life because they may be dealing with it too, is a really powerful skill. I mean, in my house, you will constantly hear somebody saying, hang on, can you say it again? I didn't process what you said, right? I heard it, but I didn't process it. And that happens in our house a lot. So that what you're saying is so important, which is that our job is not to appear as if we've got it all together. It's actually to model what it means to be human and to live a life of, sometimes making mistakes and then showing how you can be honest and transparent around that without being self-flagellating or self-judgmental, but to just be matter of fact about it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something in the very beginning of our conversation I think is so powerful too. It's like, what do we want for our kids and what do we want for our teenagers? We want them to be safe. Yeah. And it sets that balance. I want my teenager to be safe. I want them to be safe. But yet in the teenage years, they're striving for and they want independence. And so that's that balancing of we want them to be safe, but in order for them to grow, we also have to be able to let them go and to explore and to be independent. And so how could you do that as a parent to a teen? It could be something as simple as even I've heard this from a number of parents that do this, putting their teenager in charge of making dinner for the family on a Saturday night, saying, you're in charge of making dinner for the family. What? Well,
what can I do to help?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? No, yeah. Like, here's $50, get in the car, go to the store and go make us dinner. And it's just it's a great opportunity. We did that we did some similar thing with, not so much around making dinner, but we also did it with our son in terms of we were booking a flight for a vacation. And we actually had him sit right down with us and had him learn how to book the flights. He was a junior in high school. How do you book the flights? How do you enter all the information? And it's amazing. He's a sophomore in college right now. And it's incredible when he came home from break. He's like, Dad, some of my friends, they don't even know how to cook, or some of my friends, they don't even know how to do their laundry. They don't even know how to even take a bus or get on a train.
So, all right. So we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back because I want to continue this.
Do you recognize current ADHD interventions fall short? At Dig Coaching, we have developed a new field of engineering and a new ADHD intervention called Cognitive Ergonomics from the Inside Out. To learn more, visit cognitive-ergonomics.com.
Welcome back, everybody. My guest is Ed Gerety, and what we're talking about is how do we prepare our kids for adulthood to take on responsibilities. And there's something casual about what you're saying, which is just tell them to make dinner Saturday night, or just have them sit down next to you. If the relationship is strong enough and trusting enough, you can do that.
Absolutely.
But I want to emphasize that because you said we want our kids to be safe, right? Our kids want to feel safe too. And part of what makes them feel safe is feeling that they can trust us. So the catch to telling them that it's their night to make dinner or to come sit down next to you is to make sure that they don't feel like it's a trap, that you're trying to catch them being wrong or making mistakes, but that you're actually creating an environment that makes it okay for them to ask questions and learn how to do it instead of feeling like they have to know. Is that a fair kind of transition there?
I think that's so important too, is that also, nobody knows your child better than you. And so sometimes it's like, okay, go book our family vacation. And you think this is going to be such a wonderful thing because our child's going to learn how to book take responsibility. Well, but what if they're not ready? What if they're not just ready to handle such a big responsibility? What if they're maybe going through some times where they don't even have the confidence right now to even just to go to school? Now we're giving them this empowerment. So you have to know where is your teen along the way in their journey, and and if you do give them some independence, or you give them responsibility, is it in alignment with where they're at developmentally, or where they're at emotionally, socially, to be able to handle that? Because then otherwise, then you're creating an unmet expectation, and you're creating something that was supposed to be a positive experience into a frustration and anger, and maybe even a resentment. Like, how could you put me in that situation?
Well, and I think that happens a lot with complex kids, is because we think, well, you're 15, you should be able to. And that should becomes a shoulding all over everybody.
As soon as you said should, I already got defensive. I already got
Yeah.
and when a teenager hears that, it's like fingernails down a chalkboard.
So what are some ways that parents can invite their kids to a level of to take on some responsibility in a way that kind of meets them where they are? Any tricks for that?
Knowing what interests and what your teens are really curious about. If they're really interested, maybe let's say they're interested and really interested in art. So now you say, okay, well, hey, would you like to go to the museum maybe this weekend? And they're like, well, yeah, I'd love to go to the museum, because they're passionate about art, or maybe they love going to the movies. So you meet them where they're excited, or where they're really curious about something. And then maybe there's an opportunity for them to spread their wings, to gain a little sense of personal responsibility, of independence, and saying, okay, great. You know what? You go into the movie theater and get the tickets, because they're excited about the movie theater. It's something they're comfortable with, but now you're giving them a little bit more ownership in the process.
What strikes me as you say that is in my community, a lot of parents, a lot of their kids are really interested in all kinds of games on a screen, a whole variety of screen. And a lot of parents are demonizing the screens. So your example was going to the theater, but what if what the kid's really interested in is, I don't know, Pokemon Go, or Minecraft, or playing, games on the computer? How do you address that?
It's really interesting you say that, Elaine, because I was doing a parent program about a month ago, and I was like, you tap into what is that your child or your teen is curious about, and you feed that fire. And so I remember saying, if your son or your daughter, if your child is interested in, like, loves animals and loves dolphins and wants to be a dolphin trainer, then feed the fire of them wanting to be a dolphin trainer. Expose them to as much as you can in the world of being a dolphin trainer. Well, I said that, and this parent raised her hand and said, really? Really? A dolphin trainer? She goes, I really don't want I'm not really interested in my child being a dolphin trainer. And we had we could spend a whole podcast just talking.
Story to tell you. I just got to tell you, I had a chance to be a dolphin trainer for 4 days.
That's so cool.
And it was one of the best things I ever did in my life. And the best part was that I got invited back because the guy said, you're kind of naturally good at this. These dolphins, they're a lot like teenagers.
I love it.
So it's great.
I think that's so important, that you have to feed that curiosity, you feed that passion. I'll give you a great quick story. I speak at Fordham University in New York every year as part of their orientation program, their transition program for new student orientation. And I've been going there for years. And at one of the orientations, a senior orientation leader walks up to me. He goes, you're Ed Gerety. He goes, I remember you spoke at my orientation when I was a freshman. I go, you remember that? He goes, yeah. He goes, you actually brought me up on stage and you had me do this whole goal setting thing from I want to I will. Because when you get clarity, you get confidence. I'm like, that's great. I go, do you remember your goal? He goes, absolutely. I go, what was it? He goes, I will be an Oscar award-winning director here in New York by the age of 35. And I looked at him, I'm like, that's so cool. So I looked at him, I go, are you still studying film here at Fordham? And Elaine, he looked right at me and he went, no. And he said, I started out in film, but the more I got involved with film, I realized, and the more I explored it wasn't so much film I was excited about, but it was music. And the more I got involved with music, I realized that that's what I kind of wanted to build my life around. I'm like, well, that's so cool. I go, so what's your new goal now? Because my new goal now is I will have my own music production company here in New York by the age of 30, representing the top hip artists in the world. I was like, that's so cool. What are you doing now to get closer to that goal? He goes, well, right now I have an internship with Sony in their international marketing department. Good.
Awesome.
But see, like that point is, he would never have got to here if he hadn't started way over here. And what if someone had never fed the fire of him wanting to be a director and said, you want to be a director? Here, let's go for it. Go for it.
Well, and this goes back to why the process is more important than the outcome.
Yes.
So you think the goal is X, but the goal may not be, but you can't know that until you get in there and you start moving in the process towards it. And I think we as parents get so locked on the goal that we forget that that's just the destination isn't really the thing. It's how you get there that's the thing.
Especially when you're talking about complex relationships, complex, just complex, just complexity of life is that yeah, you have to get so focused. When we talk about perseverance and resilience, Elaine, and you know this, our resilience and our perseverance does not come from our achieving the goal, from the victory or from the win. Our perseverance and our resilience comes from the setbacks that we turn into comebacks. You know, the obstacles that we get faced, we turn into opportunities. I heard a great quote from, I think it was Harrison Ford, the actor, or maybe it was George Clooney. And George Clooney said, "I have learned nothing from my successes." He said, "Nothing, but I have learned everything from my failures and from my setbacks." And I think that's so beautifully well said.
I love turning setbacks into comebacks.
Yes,
That's lovely. It's a beautiful sentiment. All right, let's take a quick shift, and we're going to come back to kind of complete this conversation. But let me let everybody know how they can find out more about you. Ed Gerety does, as you can hear, public speaking, leadership development. He's got books. He's got a podcast called Parents Navigating the Teen Years. All of that is available in the show notes and at his website, edgerety.com. So I strongly encourage you to go check it out. So Ed, what have we not talked about that you want to mention, or what have we talked about that you want to kind of highlight?
You know, I think there's a lot of things we can teach our kids. I think one of the most important things that we can teach our kids, having compassion and respect for others and for yourself. And in that same breath is to really teach our kids that daily practice of gratitude, a deep appreciation for their abilities, for the opportunities that lie before us, and for the people in our life, and to really let them know that. So to really model that, and to really express that gratitude to our kids. You know, as our kids get older, you and I both know this. You know, we say those "I love yous." You know, maybe they don't always come back as quick or as often as they used to when they were younger, but they're still listening, and they need those "I love yous" and "I care about yous" and "you're special" and "you're important." They need that even more as they grow older, not less, especially in the complexities of the world that we live in today and tomorrow.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. One of my youngest kid, who is now in his kind of early to mid 20s, all of my kids, I used to say a lot, "I love the way your brain works," especially when I couldn't understand the way their brain worked. But there is something about acknowledging the little things, the things that we think we're supposed to take for granted, that we shouldn't be taking for granted. We just, when we're recording this episode, we're just completing the Thanksgiving holiday in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a dear family friend who's an extraordinary cook in town with us for the holiday. And my son and my husband and my husband's best friend were all cooking together. It was beautiful. And the friend made a comment about my son that he never would have heard. And so the next day I said, I was like, Uncle Greg left, but I want you to know what he said about what it was like to be in the kitchen with you. And, I watched him take it in. And it wasn't any major thing. It wasn't his life's work or anything else, but to watch him hear me share with him what another adult had acknowledged about him. Right? An adult that meant something to him, but to say this was really precious to him, and this is what he saw in you. And if I hadn't told him, he never would have heard it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just to express that gratitude and to cultivate that gratitude. The only way, though, you can really express that gratitude and to cultivate that gratitude is you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And you got to pay attention. You have to be in the present moment. And I think that it sets a challenge for everyone in the world that we live in today. Yeah, is that how you got to stay present, pay attention, and then be intentional. You have actually to be intentional about it is so important as well. And to your point, you focus on the outlook and not the outcome. And that was one thing we did with our kids. We raised them even in the very beginning when they were going to start a school. We never focused on the grades. We always focused on the effort. And now with our college and high school coming to an end, even when Shannon came home with a report card here in her senior year, she did awesome, phenomenal grades. But we celebrated the grades, but we really celebrated the effort. And you could just took the pride in that. She was like, I'm like, wow, I see the grade, Shannon. That's a great grade. It's a beautiful letter. But you know what? Oh, the effort is so much more inspiring to mom and I than that grade. And she knows that because we've constantly have said that and reinforced it. And that is a great life lesson to give our kids.
It is. And the other piece I'll offer to add to it when you're playing with language is to say, and we're proud of you, but it doesn't really matter. I bet you're proud of yourself.
That's beautiful.
And I love to shift it back to them. I bet you're proud of yourself. I hope you're proud of yourself for that. You deserve to be proud of yourself. Because I think a lot of times our kids are raised in this world that says prideful is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But we want them to learn how to be appropriately, respectfully, gratefully proud of themselves for what they're doing. Because the solutions are in the successes.
Such a great point. Look, when I grew up, it was kind of like, don't get too big for your britches.
Right.
Humble. You won the big award, but, kind of like quickly get off the stage instead of being able to, then I spent the last 10 years of my life just staying on stage just to acknowledge the applause because I used to just run off the stage because, you don't want it. You don't want to look like you're basking in the limelight. Whereas like, wait a minute, you're cheating the audience of that. Such a great point.
Right. Yeah, no, it really, it's a huge shift. And I got it when one of my kids was really young and came from some religious school or another and said, we're not supposed to be prideful. I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's break that down a little bit.
You make a great point. You also, Elaine, you make a great point about that when when you say you must feel really good about yourself for what you just what you just did or what you just experienced or what you just created. That's part of that open-ended question of also being able to say that to your teen, to your child. How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? And then I'm not answering the question for them because I have a tendency to do that with my kids. Like, hey, you must have had a great day today. Well, I guess I just answered the question for them. So they're like, yeah, I had a great day today. So it's innocent. How was your day? And instead of I've already projected to them how I'm expecting them to answer.
That's beautiful. And it's been a pleasure, always a pleasure to hang with you. Thank you for the grace and the optimism that you bring to the work that you do and to this generation that needs it. These kids need a champion in their corner who really believes what's possible for them. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Before we wrap, do you have a favorite quote or motto that you want to share with our audience?
Oof. My friends sometimes laugh when they walk into our house. They call it a walk-in fortune cookie because we have quotes all around our house.
My husband's the quote guy too.
I could give you a favorite quote every hour on the hour, but one of my favorite all-time quotes is by Richard Bach. And he says, you are never given a wish without the power to also make it come true. You are never given a wish without the power to also make it come true.
I love that. Is that from Illusions or Jonathan Livingston Seagull?
I think it's from Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Awesome. Yeah. One of my favorites from back in the day. All
Absolutely.
right, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate you very much, and more to come. To those of you listening, take a minute to check in with yourself. What did you take away from this conversation that I just had with Ed? What are you aware of that you might not have been aware of 30 minutes ago? What's important to you now? What do you want to bring forward with you into your week? What's one aha or insight that you want to glean from this conversation and bring forward with you into the week? And as always, my friends, thank you for what you're doing for yourself and for your kids. Thank you for tuning in. It makes such a big difference. Stay with us. Click forward. Tune into the next episode with Sarah Rosensweet, who's a fabulous conversation. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.
You've been listening to the Parenting with Impact podcast with Elaine and Diane. For more information on the Impact Parents community or to join Sanity School for Parents, please visit impactparents.com. If you like what you've heard, please share this podcast with friends who need similar guidance and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.